Well, thank you for allowing me to interview you. What's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew? Nice to meet you. I want to interview you on the topic of culture and language.
Okay.
So when you hear when you hear culture or being cultured, what comes to your mind?
I guess just food, language, I guess like where people come from, tradition, beliefs, I guess kind of what makes someone's identity their identity to some degree, or it's something that influences it.
Have you had any interest in learning languages or?
Yeah, I like studying Spanish a lot.
Oh, really? How long have you been studying?
A couple of years.
So what inspired you to learn Spanish originally?
Well, I took Spanish in high school and I thought that it was, at the time I thought it was pretty fun, but I didn't really think about doing anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
But then afterwards, later after college, I've always wanted to learn a language, so I started studying again. And then, I just started listening to a lot more music from like Latin America and Spain, and yeah.
Do you think taking classes in high school, because you could learn any language, do you think that contributed to your interest in Spanish?
I think it introduced me to it, but it not really. I really didn't think about. So I just, at the time when I was in high school, I really didn't see like how it would be useful down the line. It really wasn't until college when I thought like knowing another language would be really helpful.
So you said you've been learning Spanish for 2 years. What was your experience like when you first learned Spanish? And you took classes in high school, but maybe on your own. How was your experience trying to learn?
I'd say a lot better because I feel like in high school, they try and teach you different. They really try and make it structured, which I think is fine, but I think because it was more like a school requirement, it felt more like just like a chore, as opposed to wanting to actually. I thought it was interesting, but there wasn't really any, honestly, self-desire to do anything with it. As opposed to, at least the past couple of years, they teach you about some parts of Mexico or Spain, but again, at the time there was really no interest in it. But it's been different from studying it this time, just because it's, at my own pace. I can study how I want to study, what I want to study. So if I'm interested in one particular Spanish-speaking country's food, I have the opportunity to just focus on that. There's no, it's what I'm interested in. Or if I like this show, I can study by watching this show. It's not just because someone assigned it to me.
Yeah, that's probably not that fun. So when you were learning Spanish, obviously you're still learning it. Did you have a routine for how you wanted to learn the language, like grammar, things like that?
At the beginning, I'd say more so, because I also, when I first started, it was, I did think it would be useful to know, but I guess I didn't really know how I was going to use it, so I really tried to do basics. So, I got a workbook, I downloaded mobile apps to learn on my commute, so it was more of just doing exercise and something on one of the mobile apps a day. And it wasn't until later when I felt like I had a pretty good foundation that I tried incorporating primary source materials, whether it was watching the news or reading articles or really trying to speak to people whenever I had the opportunity.
what kind of resources, like specific resources, did you find the most helpful? Like the apps you used, and then like the textbook maybe.
I think the apps were helpful to get a foundation in in vocabulary. The book was helpful for grammar, and then like I eventually did like language exchanges,
Oh, really?
Language. I guess like you call them lessons, but it's really just like someone. They weren't really they were like a community teacher where they lived, but it was like someone just to routinely speak Spanish in, and like they could correct me. I thought that was really helpful for just talking in general. Having a better idea of like conversational Spanish and what that, like what are the types of things that I'd like to be able to say in Spanish. I think would come up in those conversations, and like it exposed like gaps in my knowledge.
How are those like kinds of conversations like? So like when you did like a call with a tutor, I'd imagine that like trying to figure out what to say all the time would be kind of difficult. Maybe also at this point in time, maybe you're maybe vocabulary, so trying to say a range of things. So how was your experience like?
We really didn't run out of time, because the thing is like with this where I did it, it was via online, but where the I guess like website I did it through, like you could test out people for like a reduced price, and he was someone that like our initial like test conversation, it was like half an hour, and I thought like he had interests that I thought were like hobbies I thought were interesting, and I think like moving forward we had like hour-long sessions, and it really never felt like there was things not to talk about. I had questions about how do I say this, or like these are my interests, and he'd respond, and it really just felt like conversation. So it was about, and like I could always he'd like email me asking me if there's a specific things that like I was interested in talking about, and so like I remember one week we talked about like where I'd like to travel, or where he has traveled and lived, and another week we talked about like healthcare, like vocabulary, which was nice. So I really didn't feel I had a solid foundation, so like we could speak stuff, and it was nice because I felt like we got to talk about like my interests, and like what words do I need to know, but then also I think because he was a native speaker, like we could talk about things that just weren't